Western civilization is moving closer to a point of irreconcilable, unstable equilibrium, as frighteningly increasing numbers of people trust nothing. Media, academia, and especially the governments are no longer held in high esteem. Regaining trust is often impossible after betrayal. However, transparency is essential to any healing process, and that is the essence of the Don Sullivan Show. Please listen to the team explore, probe, and debate cutting-edge science, technology, and computing. Play ball! Hello, everyone, and welcome back once again to the Don Sullivan Show, the show where we talk about everything science, technology, and computing. And today, guess what? It's not just me. Jersey Steve is back, and so is the news panel, fresh off the aftermath of the very anticlimactic Elon versus Sam battle, which we all thought was going to have all kinds of fireworks. It was going to be like a Johnny Depp kind of fight, but nothing really happened. It kind of was boring. But, you know, it was great. We had a great news panel here, a great discussion. So we're going to make this a monthly news panel. And we have brought back our fan favorites from the Don Sullivan Show, Marian Newsome, Gina Rosenthal, and Tony Foster to talk about, well, whatever is going on in Silicon Valley, whatever is going on in tech, whatever we decide that we have to talk about, and keep us up to date, keep the audience up to date. Since I've been running around through the wilderness of Alaska and wherever else I've been, Steve, you'll have to remind me where I've been. Well, I guess you've been doing all the commenting on all the shows, but I'm all over the place and I'm losing my mind. So we are going to focus back on the core competency of the Don Sullivan Show. That is science, technology, and computing, and specifically computing. So everybody, let's say hello. Let's start off with you, Marian. Say hello back to the audience again.
Hi, I'm Marian Newsome, and I'm glad to be joining Don. I actually specialized in AI governance and governance for boards.
Marian keeps us straight and honest on the show as much as is possible. And just to let you know, just before we got back on the show here, you know, I was reminded of what we are not allowed to talk about by everybody. So, you know, we're keeping it really on the up and up here. How about you, Gina? We know, Gina, you've got a lot of new adventures at hand here, but we are really glad to see you back, fan favorite as you are. And tell us what you can about what's going on in your world.
Yeah, sure. So I joined a startup, an AI startup called ClearML. I'm the director of content strategy. I walked right into some launch activities. So that's been fun. It's definitely startup life. Really busy doing all the things I love, learning about their tech, which they basically have an infrastructure platform for AI builders. And what that means is they by their name, you can tell they come from the ML background. And of course, we all know ML is just AI now. That's all we ever call it now. But they help them, right? That's why we call it the ML ops people, as they were, people that are doing AI ops now. All the infrastructure needs that they needed. They pulled those all together into a platform that makes it really simple to do their thing. And I'm learning everything, really able to talk about it more fluidly probably in a month or two. I've only been there a month.
Hey, you know, one of my mottos in this show that AI is a stolen cartoon term from the 1950s, and it's all machine learning and modern computing with incredible processing and an infinite amounts of data. So, Tony, fresh off our discussion, our first discussion of many of quantum computing, let's get back to the real world, at least back to Earth and away from the Schrodinger equation. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Don. It's good to be on. I guess update for the community and everything that listens to this show. I'm no longer at Dell. I am a free agent. I am looking for what comes next. So, yes, it's time for more exciting things. Out there. Yeah.
Well, I've heard Jay-Z and Scott Boras and all the other super agents that they make movies about. They've been calling you a lot. Trying to get you on board. They're asking for 3% of your multi-million-dollar contracts. I don't know if you've taken their calls or not. Are you?
There have been rumors of this, and I cannot confirm or deny any such.
No, that's probably wise. That's probably wise.
Okay. Yeah, play it close to the chest. Always smart.
Tony Foster will return.
Yes, that's the way this works in Silicon Valley. It's unfortunately stressful for all of us. I'm still waiting here. It's probably, because, that age discrimination thing, right, Steve? All right, Steve, before I get in trouble, take it away. Tell us what we're doing here.
Sure. Well, first of all, greetings from the Garden State. It's lovely and muggy here. Today's episode is brought to you by License Fortress, the industry's first and only software asset management firm to offer both a financial and legal guarantee at its highest level of service. Whether it's Oracle, Microsoft, or VMware, License Fortress helps organizations stay compliant, avoid audits, and save money. Learn more at licensefortress.com. And please support our producer by visiting axtinc.com. That's AXTINK.com. Subscribe to his YouTube channel and help support his goal of building a luxury resort for guinea pigs. And as always, a shout out to Digital Sunshine Solutions. Back to you, Don.
Digital resort. That's a good one.
Which doesn't exist anymore.
Digital Sunshine has now been de-incorporated?
Not all the way. There's legal stuff that has to happen as a time-bound thing. So,
well, you know what? We will hold that name in reverence to our hearts on this show.
Might need a ceremony.
And we will keep pushing the literary content and the history of Digital Sunshine, because that's just
the spirit. Yeah, the spirit of it.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So I don't have to read the waiver because everybody's been on here before. And even though our top 10 in the country law firms, multiple of them, and our VC folks are insistent that they do, I'm not going to do it. We're getting right into the questions because there's so much going on here. So, people, what's up? What's going on here? Where are we at? Quantum is on the way. Data center construction is accelerating, Gina, to such an extent that even Texas Governor Greg Abbott has decided to slow things down. Peter Thiel wants to build a data center under the waves. What is going on here? Gina, you've been on. Well, tell us what's going on from your perspective.
It's still a grift. I'm still convinced that it's an entire grift. If we think about why do we need it? Like, if we think about it from a technical standpoint, why do we need all of these giant data centers? Because these data centers will be for getting the equipment together to hopefully get us to AGI, which is it's so unscientific and non-technical that it doesn't make any sense. And at the same time, it will involve massive destruction to the environment. For sure. There's no two terms about that. So why aren't we taking all of those resources and all that understanding we have about what we have, what we could potentially do, and pouring it into making the next chips, the next cooling system, trying to figure out how to make things smaller? Why aren't we doing that instead of saying...
Well, I think we're doing that as well.
Yeah, it's just not going fast enough. So we're falling back on the let's go fast and break things. And the breaking thing is going to be our...
Let's go big. Let's go big and not care about anything.
Exactly.
Again, that's accelerating.
It's a great...
Well, we do that.
Oh, sorry.
We like that here.
I think the other thing is just the power piece of it is such a grift. All of a sudden, there's just a lot of places that are going to need power. That's why I rolled my eyes at, I'm not going to be rude, the governor of Texas is, I'm not going to call him by his nickname.
Well, that's at least what's official.
Well, he's adopted it, so it's like, okay. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to be rude. But that's why you have to watch the way he's saying things, because the way they're all saying things is very crafted and very marketing and managed to lead people one way, right? So you're not paying attention to it. But it's a big grift for the oil industry and especially for the natural gas industry, because instead of breaking the Texas grid, which is not that hard to do because we're all on our own and we don't share with anybody, instead of doing that, they're just going to roll up portable generators and make that power these incredibly energy hungry.
Isn't that loud too? Generators are noisy.
They're loud. They are really, really bad for the environment. and they're going into places that aren't regulated, and so they're very rural areas, so there's not as many people to get up and step up and say something. And by the time they get there, so that's why they're going so fast, and get them up and going, it's going to be a done deal and too late for those different communities. So I know Tony's like jumping, so I'll shut up now.
So Tony's bursting out of my screen here, folks. So take it away, Tony.
Cool. So I have one theory and one interesting news article that I read recently. And I actually have it pulled up on my other monitor here. So first, hypothetical, theoretical, whatever you want to call it. I wonder if some of what we're seeing with let's build data centers everywhere is sort of a...
including under the waves.
Including under the waves. Is really a let's throw it against the wall and see where it sticks. We're going to put in applications to build 1,000 data centers all over the United States. And we're going to see where we're going to get the least amount of resistance.
Kevin O'Leary has pretty much stated that himself. That's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we're going to propose 1,000 data centers. We only need 10, maybe, but we're going to propose 1,000 and see what sticks.
Yeah, the size of a medium Midwest town, each one.
Yes.
These are all very large investments too, though, no?
They are large investments. Of course, I also wonder how much of this investment...
Yeah, they make Amazon fulfillment centers look like the break room.
They do. Is sort of like the malls back in the 1980s, where
it's exactly like that. It's
basically
exactly
my childhood.
Yes, you basically got paid to build malls. They were a huge tax haven. So I do wonder about the tax haven thing, and then. Right at the end of July, 1st of August, CNN actually had a story. Americans are rallying against data centers. Surprisingly, few are actually getting built. And it goes through all the numbers and everything and why all of this is happening. So there are supposed to be massive numbers of data centers all coming online this year. Only about 30%, I think, is what the article says.
It's not few, though, especially given how you just framed it in terms of it being the expectation or the promotion of many thousands and many hundreds will happen. If they're all the size, as I said, of a Midwest town, then you're dealing with an enormous amount of processing. And Gina and I have obviously been back and forth with this quite a bit over a lot of time for years. But I wonder, Tony, from your perspective, is if a pivot in the next 3 to 5 years towards quantum is going to fall more on the side of, and I won't put words in her mouth in the way that Gina has expressed to me before, that there's just not going to be as much need for this massive processing power, and it's just going to wind up sitting idle.
To an extent, I think. So if we can actually get our qubit count up to where we need it,
which is
we have to get above 100 error-free qubits. Let's get to 100 error-free qubits.
See previous Don Sullivan shows for the definition of that. Go ahead, Tony.
Then we can start having real conversations about quantum computing being functional and important.
So at least for the time being, then, we're still looking at relatively important and useful massive processing power, literally to infinitum. So, Marian, let me bring you into this discussion. As we are seeing it, at least the attempts here, and the applications and the efforts, the at least promotion of the acceleration, all literally from the middle of Alberta down to the Mexican border, everywhere, and into almost to the Appalachians, everywhere is trying to build, at least the leaders, the public leaders, are trying to get these data centers for all kinds of different financial reasons, mostly in their communities. And some people are fighting back against it. They're usually very loud, but they're usually not that interested in the money. The people who are interested in the money are, there's a lot going back and forth. What's sitting on your radar right now in the last month or quarter that you've noticed that you want to bring up?
So I would say here in Texas, the big project is the Franklin Project. It's in a rural area in East Texas where I actually have roots that go back 200 years. And looking at the impact of some of the oil boom towns, the wreckage to the environment, for lack of a better term, the impact of unemployment. So people aren't pushing back and really understanding the impact of building a data center, especially on rural communities. Also here where I live today in a pretty urban area, there is a push for data centers out in the Fort Worth area, in communities that, the HOAs kind of run campaigns for them. Oh, it's going to do this for your taxes. They don't talk about the noise pollution. I was tickled when you brought up the Amazon fulfillment centers. We have a couple here that were built. No one works in them. They're actually used as film studios. And so a lot of times it just feels like we're pushing because it's the hottest thing without really thinking about the consequences to the future. Even the future of technology, the things we are seeing on the technology roadmap, it's a lot of churn, a lot of hype, and unfortunately not a lot of thought about the consequences to the people, the communities, and the environment, I think, for me. Now, I'm not the greatest fan of our governor, but I will give him credit for standing up and saying, no, let's take a pause, let's take a beat to see where are we going. And I think it was Tony who said, I read an article where there's like our infrastructure is just not the one. Our energy infrastructure isn't. I think it said something like it's 474 gigawatts can tip us, and 90 gig in a weather event. And we're in 100 degree day plus those dog days of summer that Steve talked about. And so to bring a data center into this infrastructure, you're not helping the community. It's not even good. It's not being a good corporate citizen, I would say.
So let me I'm going to put something in the chat, and maybe we can put this in the notes when we get there. I think it's really important to understand what Abbott said and why he took the pause, because it's very political, right? All he's wanting to do is to make sure that the data center interconnections will result in reduced residential electric bills, that the data centers have to pay for all their electric infrastructure costs, and no residential ratepayer is burdened by the costs, and that basically how can we safeguard Texans, their property and resources. I believe the pause has nothing to do with trying to find the right thing to do. They're trying to figure out, how do we get all these protests to stop? How do we get the cities to stop? Because they're definitely going to try to legislate that in the upcoming session of making it so it's a Texas decision and not a community decision. This is for him to get his political ducks in order and to get people to stop protesting, because that makes him look really bad.
So I would agree with that.
I don't think he's doing the right thing at all. Is there a chat on this thing?
Yeah, there is a chat. If you look over
you just
on
read
the
everything you needed
right-hand side. I was going to ask, with respect to the data centers, you talked about noise pollution. Obviously, they can have there can be environmental impacts. Are there any regulations specific to data centers? Do the laws need to be kind of updated? Data centers have been around for a while. AI data centers, I suppose, are just a new iteration of this, bigger and grander, but, are there laws at a federal level? Is it by state or town? How does this all work?
And add into this, I'll open this up to the field here, and add into this, and we've, of course, had multiple Don Sullivan shows on the various different new fluids that have massive heat capacity. Hyperic is architecting them. Our old friend Mohan is working for Hyperic, and that will and should really, as long as those fluids, those new material science is adopted, be able to deal with, for the most part, the heat pollution, to refer to it that way, to kind of coin a term, as opposed to.
I think it helps absorb it. Yeah, it sounds
well,
like.
It helps reuse it. It has a massive heat capacity, remember, the fluids. And so therefore it can maintain that heat and allow it to be reused in other for other purposes.
We talked about putting hot tubs next to the data center and opening like a very posh spa.
It's particularly for guinea pigs.
Except for the noise.
Yeah,
for guinea pigs.
That's what Bill Axe is getting into, right, Bill?
And of course, the other thing is he's bullish on this stuff. He is.
Yeah. And the other thing, of course, from a regulatory perspective, the thing that's been most regulated in the last 50 years in the United States are all nuclear development of any kind, even the fission development, before we get into the fusion discussion on this particular episode. But so many of these in different states, these data centers, are, including supported by Mr. Gates himself, for the mini or the even full nuclear plants, up to 100 meg, up to a gig to 2 gig nuclear plants, which have no noise at all. So you don't have to worry about the generator noise from them. And
that's not what you have to worry about.
No,
they do usually have those cool towers that, kind of Simpsons type of vibe.
Well, the smaller ones don't. So the smaller ones are much.
I don't like that at all.
Obviously.
I like those towers, Don.
Yeah, you vacationed at 3 Mile Island when you were a kid.
I like a clown. I guess I'm a traditional kind of guy.
Going to take that trip to
nuclear power plants
Ukraine and Chernobyl after
look the part.
The war is done. Sightseeing, I know.
Yeah.
Swimming on the beach in Fukushima. That's what Steve's doing.
That is another business
every
idea.
Possible disaster that might happen. Let's get back. What about the mini nuclear plants that are actually powering and net able to put energy back into the grid?
Are there any that they've built with mini nuclear power plants yet?
They're all
or is
on
this just an idea?
No,
Tony's shaking his head no.
Still, they're from 25 to, at the best now, 10-year regulatory development.
So it doesn't seem like, if they're trying to build this stuff as quickly as possible and get it in while the getting is good, it doesn't sound like that's an option. I don't know.
Well, this is part of what the various different certain states are trying to
Tony,
do.
What do you think? You were shaking your head.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's interesting, and I cannot remember who it was, but one of the big names actually got approval to build a, I think it's a 4 megawatt or 5 megawatt.
I don't think it's that big. That's huge. That's almost Zaporizhia size.
It is insane, but it's centered in between 5 of their data centers.
That's that would be the biggest in the United States.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's a natural gas generator. And it is strictly to run
gigawatt. 5 gigawatt natural gas.
It may be, yeah.
I mean, that's nuclear, So
it's huge. Whatever it is, I have to go and look it up. I just saw it as I was reading through my morning tech news, and it's like, oh wow, that's big, and
where is this?
Bother to make note of it. I can't remember. It was
somewhere in the U.S.
Yes, in the U.S. And I haven't. I just saw it the other day. I had other things that were going on that particular day.
Oh, it's a Texas thing?
Yeah, I think so. Was it Amazon? But it's going to be the biggest, the top source of U.S. climate pollution?
That'd be the one.
Yeah.
Cheery. Texas does everything bigger.
Like it would be coal, but
I'd like to
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marian.
No, I interrupted you. You go ahead.
Well, I mean, for the most part, you don't get any real pollution at all out of any nuclear. Natural gas is generally pretty low. But of course, with anything that is oil-based, hydrocarbon-based, because we have never taken carbon capture seriously as a science in the world, they get those really big, and it's going to cause an enormous amount of carbon being placed in the air. So, to the extent that that's called pollution, we have it. So if it's that big, I have to look this up and get back to the audience of the Don Sullivan Show on it. But in general, there's still a lot going on.
Gina sent something. Pecos County, Amazon funds biggest gas power plant in U.S. despite climate pledge. Yeah. So it's a gas power plant. That's another, and Marian, I want to let you talk, but that's another interesting thing. We went for a few years in a row talking about how we have to be more climate conscious, and that kind of went out the window a little bit within the context of AI, no?
In the context of this administration, how about that?
Yeah, I would say this one. And I'm not saying any of the prior ones are better, right? Yeah. But yeah, I think now we're doing more for innovation, and so some of the guardrails are off. But I'd like to go back to something Tony said as we talk about these huge data centers, about the deserted malls, right? And so, where is this demand coming from? Is this a lot of speculation? Do we actually know that we'll need these? And in a few years, we'll be looking at them as eyesores? Or has anybody really taken the time to really separate the speculation from the actual demand and where technology is going? We've talked about quantum. There's some other technologies out there. People are even talking about space now. But what is the actual demand for these huge data centers? And I don't think I've not seen a lot around that. I just hear bigger, better, faster. And I mean, we're at the home of the Dallas Cowboys, and we pay how much for a sports team that has not won a conference game since the 80s. So I just wonder about the investment.
Okay, Jerry Jones is going to
Will these data centers be the Cowboys of the Cowboys of tech?
We're going to games and wearing
lots of headlines, predicted to be a big game every year and then fall flat.
Right. And so my concern with the data centers, we hear a lot about demand, but what is the demand if we're moving to other technologies very quickly and emerging technologies? Are these things going to become just big places or dog parks? That's what they're doing with malls here in the Dallas area. So
all kinds of services.
Marian, look, you obviously didn't listen to Sam Altman when he said they will build it, they will get to AGI, and then they'll ask the AGI. They'll tell them.
So we'll build it. They'll come. Is that what?
That is the answer they have.
It sounds like
it worked for Kevin Costner. Okay, and James Earl Jones had the second best speech in the history of American baseball.
AI Field of Dreams.
Yeah. All right, so let's get back. I want to, since we're talking about demand, let's talk about a technology that there is massive demand for that has been neglected to a certain extent. And I'll just read this off that I've actually had sort of random thoughts on, generally about batteries. It is material science is a major focus of the Don Sullivan Show in general in a lot of different respects. But obviously the regulatory environment throughout the world is softening for different reasons. These things go in waves. The shifting focus in world politics is on nation states, obviously in the U.S. becoming particularly self-sufficient in every way, but specifically in the case of what I'm going to ask here, in terms of not so rare earth materials. There's really no such thing as rare earth materials. It's just a rare desire to actually go get them. For instance, the Salton Sea in southern California is the world's greatest source of lithium, and it actually comes out naturally. It's very easy to access, but because the regulatory environments in California are such that it, for the most part, isn't accessed, so we prefer to pay cents on the dollar for 14-year-olds to dig it up by hand in various different countries in the middle of Africa. So
it creates jobs, Don.
It creates jobs in the middle of Africa for this. The Salton Sea is referred to as the Saudi Arabia of lithium. The access methodology is completely complementary to what is already there as a geothermal industry. It just naturally gets pushed into the air. Cobalt is literally everywhere in the world that you want to mine, and it's not hard to get. It just takes a lot of process to actually get the permits and to mine it, and it's not really all that profitable. But both of those elements are absolutely required, along with nickel and cadmium and some others, to produce the batteries that we have. The demand is expanding, not just accelerating, but exponentially expanding in every way. Obviously not just for drones and cars, but in every possible respect. There's a really interesting new battery technology just purely based on ceramics that is in its infancy, but shows great promise. I'm sure Elon is all over this in some secret location somewhere in the world. But what else have you all heard about this, and what can we talk about? And I really want to hear, let's start off with you, Marian, in regards to the ethics of all of this in comparison to the rather glib the comparison that I just made of these rare earth materials, air quotes, existing everywhere, particularly in the United States, versus us simply sourcing them from places in the world that are impoverished to a level that we can't understand.
So I actually agree with you. I think that it's a supply chain resilience issue, and really,
yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and more of a governance win. I just don't see that we build. We don't bet the nation on one form of chemistry or another. We have to have diversification within the supply chain to actually be resilient. So I actually agree with you there, and I think that model has to be there day one. And my concern is that a lot of the Salton Sea is more marketing than actually a model for the way we should actually be thinking.
Well, why is that? Well, we know it's there. I mean, the lithium is there, and it just comes out. But right. So why do you think it's just more marketing in terms of the capacity, at least?
I think it's for the investment community, right? If I can get you sold, it's kind of like cryptocurrency. If I can get you sold on this is a great investment, the dollars pour in. So then we're looking at people pouring money into things for that big payoff. But actually, it's really just a supply chain thing for me. That's my opinion.
I mean, when you are thinking of it in terms of investment marketing, are you doubting the actual capacity? Are you doubting the ability of the United States government to allow for the processing to work, even though for the most part it's pretty simple? Because again, it's coming out. All this lithium is coming out through the already existing geothermal infrastructure. It's just not being captured. Or are you doubting, which I'm at least hoping, that the existence or the pervasiveness of lithium as the main element in every battery for the last 25 years of any significance is going to be that main factor in upcoming years, because the technology is going to change. Which of those, or all of them?
So it's the last one. I think the technology will change. I think.
Like the ceramics, do you know?
I'm not sure if I like the ceramics. I don't think I know enough about the ceramics.
Okay, all right. Yeah, it's new. It's really new. I didn't mean to sort of.
No, you didn't. That's okay. I don't know everything, and when I don't, I'll ask. So, but no, I just don't. I just see it more as we have to have diversity within that supply chain, and right now, that's all. We don't have it, and I think there are several reasons for that.
Well, diversity in the technologies, not just the overall technology being batteries, the sub technologies being the types of batteries. And then the supply chains underneath them that supply the materials to actually build them in as many places as possible is the ideal methodology for actually creating that vertical industry of batteries, as opposed to monopolistic
Right, but
practices.
some of
Which
that
for the
is
most part,
geopolitical, right?
yeah.
We're getting into countries wanting to control and say, I have the uh, that is such a limited supply, and I have more of it or better quality. And I think that that's where we're getting into some even more diverse and some more political topics that are really kind of driving this and driving the markets with
Well,
it.
it's so difficult, right, from an ethical perspective, because if you are a regular American who, for the most part, is working and exhausted all the time and watches your flavor of cable news, you're going to hear that, quote, rare earth materials exist in the middle of Africa, in impoverished countries, and exist in China, and that's the only place they exist. When the truth is they exist absolutely everywhere, and more so in the United States and accessible than anywhere, except, of course, and Canada, except, of course, that they are blocked by a host of different reasons. And I'm not commenting on the validity of any of those reasons, but
I don't know if we have them in New
asking you
Jersey,
to.
Don. I mean, we've got some real gems as far as pizzerias, but I was going to say,
Well,
I
what do you
did
think
look
makes
up.
that freaking New York pizza taste so good there in New Jersey?
It's
You know?
that
And
water.
it's the
the
water, but
reservoirs.
what's in the water, all right?
Some minerals, Don. But listen, I looked up the Salton Sea thing. Apparently, it is absolutely real as a massive resource. They're estimating 18 million metric tons. There may be hype surrounding it regarding, how quickly they can get it, how easily. I think it's like in these geothermal brines beneath the sea.
Yeah.
So I think it can be very difficult to get it out. It's like
But it
hot
needs
and
to see,
corrosive down there.
Remember, for the audience, the sea is really just a lake, and they call it a sea because it is so salty, and it naturally dried up due to climate changes over the last 100 years. You go back into the 60s, it was a major tourist resort boom, and the whole thing just dried out because of what happened to the Southwest desert, Sonora, and the deserts of the Southwest. And so the geothermal processes, and this has been going on forever, that have been a part of the Salton Sea resource, just simply have lithium gas in them. And it's just a matter of separating it. But that also requires an enormous amount of regulatory
And there's also
circumvention.
we can't talk about this without talking about the environmental impact, even if it's just a swamp of brine. That brine sustains the ecosystem that remains after the lakes and the ocean dried up. That's what's going on in West Texas. Is now all of a sudden, in addition to saying that they're going to pay for their own energy, by the way, they're going to pollute the air doing it. They're not talking about, they're also saying, we'll just take the brine and we'll use that for our water draws, for our initial water draws. Doing that will have a serious impact on the ecosystem, even though it's a desert in West Texas. And because that's what's left after everything went away and evolution and all the rest of the stuff with it, besides leaving all of these rare earth minerals behind, also provided a way for that ecosystem to still survive. So what happens if you kill that ecosystem? So it's not as simple as saying it's there, let's go pick it up like a shell on the shore. It's that brine is part of the ecosystem of the desert, and there are undoubtedly going to be adverse reactions to just taking it away.
Well,
So
there always are. It's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle on a global level.
Absolutely.
Obviously, just observing something, the act of observing something changes it. The act of taking things changes it even more, right? So,
exactly.
we don't have answers definitive to virtually anything, and we have to try it.
But part of the geopolitical thing, I think, is fear, right? If we're calling it rare, we're already saying, oh, it's so rare, so we need to get in this race now. And if we don't get it, China has it, Africa has it. And so some of that rare material, that even that phrasing is kind of marketing to me, because you're actually counting on that fear factor to say, hey, we can't be left out of this race. In AI, we're seeing, the Chinese models, hey, we're going to be left out. So, hey, you guys get on board, vote for this, and let it come into your communities. And hey, by the way, you'll get a few jobs, and we'll tear up the environment. But you're doing it for the good of your country. I think some of that is fear marketing.
All right, so different subject, folks.
Wait a minute. I want to talk about the ceramics.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, if you know something to add about ceramic batteries, I want to have a whole show on that. So go ahead,
I
Gina.
maybe have talked about this on another show with you, but we have in my neighborhood this company called ExoWatt took over the Frito-Lay plant of all things, which is literally down
So
the street. from the
potato
corner.
chips had ceramics in them. I always knew there was something really wrong with them. Okay.
I think the potato chips had to go someplace else, so they were more.
I will
They
not
weren't-
take any bad talk about Doritos. I'm just saying it right now. Doritos are sacred in this house.
Oh my goodness!
We
But
get
that's
good.
what they do. They call it rocks in a box. So they have, and I don't know if they're ceramic rocks or exactly what there is. I keep hoping they said they were going to come to the community center and do a demo. But this is kind of like this location is kind of like their demo center for all of their different people that sell this particular product. But they basically put a whole bunch of ceramic rocks, I think it's ceramic rocks, into a container. And then they take the same glass that the lighthouses use, but they invert them so the sun shines down in on the container on the rocks and makes them super, super hot. And then they have some kind of mechanical machinery that then takes the power that was produced and that actually is powering data centers. So
That's fascinating.
it's absolutely, and we talked a lot
ceramics
with.
have great conductivity. That's one.
What's that?
One of the reasons ceramics have extremely well. No, I'm sorry. They are very dielectric, and they have. I'm stepping on myself here. Continue, Gina, before I keep looking like a fool.
Well, we had really big conversations because we were just hearing that the people, they were really nice, and the plant manager talked to my neighbors and I about it because we were worried because if this is a battery plant, what does that mean for our neighborhood? It's literally steps away. I drive past it several times a day because it's the way in and the way out of our neighborhood. But I think that's kind of what kind of sparked in me the whole idea that there are things going on to try to find a way that isn't destructive to the environment, that actually uses the environment in a very clever way to create the power that we need. So there are people thinking about this, and they're not getting the marketing like Marian's talking about. We don't hear about it, and so much so that when we there's no questions being asked about that. People just know the data centers in the way that they're being deployed right now aren't good for a community, and they're not good for an environment. We're not hearing enough about other things that are there that could potentially solve this problem instead of going.
Well, from a startup perspective, these this is why this is right up our alley, Gina. That the new technologies in this overall sphere of batteries, particularly ceramics, as I get my thoughts together here. Ceramics in general are some of the most, it's actually a technology, because there's technology that was created many thousands of years ago, at least initially, but they have an incredible flexibility, incredible range of conductivity, and both from an electrical and a thermal perspective. So it can be used for all kinds of things and incorporated. Stephen and I of course, have a whole watch sub-series on this, and the ceramic timepieces are highly sought after because they're incredibly scratch resistant as well. So it's almost a miracle material in that way, and this is why we're gonna have to get more knowledgeable about this and have an entire show on it, Tony. Hint. We're really going to have to think about this because it's worth actually discussing. So startup time for that, Gina. But Gina, Marian, I do want to get your thoughts, since I know where Tony and I come from on this. We're a little bit Wild Westish, and we are a little bit more aggressive, I think. How do you feel about the accelerating move towards quantum, and from what you know, especially over the last couple of months, with some of the announcements that have been made by Microsoft in particular, that they are a lot closer to actually producing legitimate productized quantum systems, and the obvious implications of all of that. Tony and I talked a lot on one show about the fears being overblown, but the fears are there. in regards to just simply the sort of exaggerated statement that all passwords will be useless once a quantum product is out there. How do you guys feel about that? Or have you thought about it much?
So, yeah, I think I probably feel more comfortable with quantum than AI because
Oh, yeah,
quantum
that's
actually
interesting.
has a countdown. We actually have frameworks that if we took the time from a governance standpoint to really work on, like the NIST framework that could address some of the issues we're looking at with quantum, whereas AI from a governance perspective, it's just nobody knows what it does. Nobody is accountable for what it does. But with quantum, at least we do have some existing frameworks that we could actually go to and beef it up and make that a priority. And I'm, like I said, I think we've talked about quantum enough. We have companies who are designed around quantum computing. And so it's really just a countdown versus where AI is just all for one and one for all. And let me jump the guardrails and go see what you're doing and hack into you and come back. Whereas quantum, we do have existing governance framework.
Well, it's so interesting you say that to me because I really do agree with you. And I agree from the perspective that, and again, the listeners to this particular show, and Gina, you've heard me say this for better part of a decade now, that for the most part, the term artificial intelligence is just silly. Again, it's a term stolen from cartoons in the 1950s. There's no intelligence, it's just mathematical iteration. Whereas legitimate quantum computing, especially with real neural network architectures, may actually get to the point to actually resemble something of infinitely fast thinking. And that, I think, is cause for legitimate concern. I don't know what the concern is, but some legitimate. Tony and I have talked about this before. How about you, Gina? Where do you stand on this?
So what am I standing on again? Is it quantum? What scares me more, quantum versus?
Yeah, what scares you more at the point, or at least where it's at right now? What concerns you more? What's more top of mind, the state of quantum or the state of
I think
stirred up machine learning?
I think I agree with Marian. One thing.
Wow, we're all in agreement.
Yeah, I think one thing I agree with the idea that we see quantum coming, and there's a lot of working groups trying to figure out what does this look like and what do we do to protect everybody. Because AI in the instance, how it looks now, how it came across, was such a hype cycle. And I don't think there's ever any coming back from the fact that they stole all of the world's data to train the models. Like, how do you come back from that? How do you undo that? You can't.
Well, is it fair to say that everybody steals everybody else's data all the time?
I'm not sure, but yeah, in this case, it was so
maybe egregious. A particularly egregious version of that.
It's egregious because it involved all of us. If you have a blog or a YouTube channel or anything under Creative Commons, your information is used to be trained, right? So and there's nothing you can do about it, and that's kind of sucks. I think the other thing I look about is worry about, the post-quantum cryptography or whatever. Yeah, we should be worried about that. But if you look to see what's going on now, it's crazy because we're back to when everything first got online. And remember when you would get an email or you would get an instant message and it would have a URL in it. The funny ones were they were Rickrolls, and you could find out 50 million ways to Rickroll your friends. But the not so funny ones contained worms that immediately went and encrypted everything, messed up all the servers, and you couldn't get it out without wiping the servers and reinstalling anything. And there was nothing really automated at that point in time. And it sucked because I lived through it. I think that's happening now. I think what's going to happen is we're going to see
these kids don't know how good they have it, do they, Gina?
They can do it again. They shouldn't have to do it again. That's what sucks about it, right? They're going to do it again. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have someone with lots of access, an executive or a top engineer, get phished. And we know that the gangs, the cybersecurity gangs are the cyber gangs, security gangs. they're getting better and better at things because now they don't have the block of not speaking English because of generative AI. They're being told how to do different things. What's going to happen is someone's going to get phished and sent a Microsoft document that they feel is legitimate and they think it's real. They're going to just open it. And if they have a connector to one of the big, any of the generative AIs connected to their Microsoft estate, they're screwed. Now everything's going to give up the ghost.
That's a technical term, by the way.
It is. I mean, like, how do you know if you get a Word?
Look it up on Wikipedia.
If you get a Word document that has a ChatGPT command in white text on the white page that gets sent to you, and you open it because you believe it's real, what's going to happen?
I've heard about this with resumes where people were putting text that you couldn't see, but because they were feeding it into AI.
That was for you they knew that
giving
you were taking
prompts.
that resume and putting that into and feeding that into an algorithm, which was reading it, right? This instead is having a command that is in that document and then execute on my estate with my content, with my data, with my secrets, and it's going to do it with my Claude connection or my ChatGPT
using the
connection.
power of those things to completely exploit and
so think about that. And how do you trace that? How do you trace that? That came in through Gina's email, and look, it came in. How long does it take someone to find that? And that's exactly something like that's going to happen. They're probably already phishing people right now. And that's why I think today is more important, because we're looking at things where people don't understand what AI is. They think they get a bunch of licenses for their people. We're good. We're doing AI now. But what does that mean? And are they actually using what you gave them to users? What you gave them kind of suck because it's low level. So now they're using what they're paying $25 for that has more power to get their job done, right? So it's shadow AI. So that's great that you think you gave everybody sorry, Marian, go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with Steve. It is shadow AI. I mean, we actually have well, I'm not going to say it that way, but there are places that have agentic AIs, and the agents, they don't even know the identity. And so, but I was disagreeing with Steve.
Oh, thank you. But that's kind of the thing. We talk about, quantum's almost here. It is, but we've got something right here, right now that everybody's using, that everybody believed all the hype. And so now they're wanting everybody to use it. All of the workers who have the knowledge in their head, who are able to actually make something real with it, with a generative AI platform, they're going for it. They're doing their jobs. They're doing what they have to do. But there's so much danger. You don't know what an agent's identity is. If you don't know what an API's identity is, if you don't know who issued the command and where it's going, you might not know because the developer used his credentials, or they're sharing a shared credential, very Microsoft-like, right? Like you have a shared credential and everybody's sharing it. Who actually issued it? And then it goes into Marian's domain with, this is talking about danger happening. But what happens if I get sued? If I'm an insurance company, I get sued because someone says, you denied me my claim and it's because of your AI. Can I prove it? How do I know how many agents work together to make this decision? And where did they start, and what did they go through, and what did they access, and how did they come to that decision? You
need transparency and data lineage and all that.
Right.
All of that.
Yeah, observability. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, on a related note, I've got one more, Don. Do we think that there should be serious concerns when folks at these AI companies say, our model broke out and did X, Y, Z? Is this marketing hype, or is this something that should be a concern?
Well,
who's first? Tony,
I'm just gonna jump on this because if I worked for one of these companies in their marketing department, I'd be all over it. Have you noticed we had one breakout that made the news, and then everybody else starts going, "Hey, ours broke out too."
So this is a lot of marketing.
This is marketing.
Okay.
This is a large amount of marketing, in my opinion, because
we're bashing marketing a lot on this show, folks, by the way, and we're all in marketing, so
that is true.
Everybody markets.
But do you think it's a marketing thing to cover up something really bad that happened to make it not seem as bad?
That's spin, right? So yeah, I guess that's the inverse.
It is spin.
That's crisis management at that point.
But that's really marketing.
Yeah.
Yes, that is what marketing is for.
That's getting Stephen Smith to write a statement for Ted Kennedy in 1969, kind of thing, So
you're gonna have to explain that one.
He drove off a bridge. The same day as Neil Armstrong set foot in the moon. But I mean, that's the level of problem fixer. Ray Donovan from Hollywood kind of thing, of where marketing becomes the problem solver of.
So AI needs fixers.
Order.
Yeah. Okay.
The fixers on the. All right, folks. Hey, we're at an hour here. We have a lot to talk about.
Fast.
We haven't gotten through half of the things that I wanted to discuss, and Gina is trying to distract me right now with the Slinky. But I guess I shouldn't comment anymore on that. But we are going to have to.
That's tech we can all get behind.
That's not a euphemism. It's a real Slinky. Okay. So we are going to have to end our show today. And we will get everybody back a month from now to continue this discussion and to see where things are at, because, we're here in the 6 cities of Silicon Valley and things happen fast. So we'll get back on a month from now, and we'll discuss what happens then. This is just too much fun to ignore it with these last cheery 10 minutes on the Don Sullivan Show. So any last comments? Marian, you first.
So I'm not so sure the letting down of guardrails within AI is a marketing. I'm not quite sold on that, Tony. You can work on me next month about that one. Because if I'm in a regulated industry, you really don't need to be on my network messing around with my data. And so there are regs around that. But like I said, again, I would like to see more in this space, more around actual demand versus speculation. And what is that spin, and what is really true, and what is really needed. I think that would be my parting thought.
Gina?
I think it goes back to people really need to understand what our technology is doing, even if it's just in a very basic
Who's
way.
People? The general public?
Yes,
the audience
everybody.
On the Don Sullivan Show? Okay.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody in the world.
I actually agree. Yeah.
It's going to impact everybody in the world. And it's just like the internet. It took forever for people to understand what it was. And I think it's going to be the same way with AI, but I think it's really important because, I'm tired of telling people that I've worked in data centers my entire life, and data centers aren't bad. It's right now, it's what's going on and how they're being built and what's going on. So very interesting conversations, but people don't have the framework for what the heck I'm talking about. So it goes back to nobody. Oh, okay. No, we don't really care, Gina. This is too nerdy. But I think we all need to know.
Nuance is important, right? It's nuance.
Well, some level of basic understanding at very least. And Tony, you are feverishly shaking your head without a Slinky. So go ahead, take us out.
I'm in complete agreement with Gina on that, on understanding what's actually happening and what the realities of things are, because I have to deal with that every day, because that seems to be the second major headline here in Kansas is so-and-so wants to build a data center. And yeah, just responding to it because it's, Tony, you work in the IT industry. You understand this. Explain. So I completely get it. That and air-gapped environments, understand what they are.
Air gap is wonderful.
Air-gapped is a very wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing the thumbs up from Marian. And, folks, air and concrete are the best security ever invented. All right, with that positive note there, folks, remember, we'll be back on the show next month. We'll be back on the show next week. We'll be back with this panel next month because this is too much fun to not have as a regular thing. And everybody on this show knows that no matter what we're doing, whether or not I'm slogging my way through Alaska or somewhere else in the world, whether or not we're actually trying to understand what the hell a qubit means, or the Schrodinger equation is really telling us that is causing a rogue wave on a cruise ship. That's a different show. Just remember, folks, no matter what, that all at-bats are situational. See ya.